Sure. Hi, I'm Serafina. I've actually been thinking about writing a thesis since freshman year, so I do have a topic in mind. I'm planning on writing about U.S. counterterrorism efforts in the Middle East um, post-ISIS, drawing on everything that's been done in the last 50 years or so, probably with Professor Krauss.
Great. Jake, why don't you go next?
I'm Jake. Like everyone else, I'm an IS major.
Tell us your concentration too, guys, which concentration you're in.
I'm political economy and development studies. And I've always had a vague idea of what I would want to do for a thesis. And that's the waning role of the US on the global stage. I don't have any other ideas other than that, but looking for an advisor for that topic.
Great. Riley, why don't you go next?
Hi, I'm Riley. I'm a global cultures concentration, and I don't have a definite thesis topic yet. I'm a double major in French, so I want to do something like related with that. And I actually might be thinking of doing a thesis in that department instead, but I'm still trying to feel out my options.
Great. Yeah, we had a 2 years ago, one of our peer advisors wrote a terrific thesis on food politics or gustatory politics in Quebec as a French and IS double major. And he got to drive up and do a lot of sampling of the food and talking to chefs and everything. It was really terrific. So Maddie Haddix.
Yeah, hi, I'm a political economy concentration. And I'm not really sure what I want to do for my thesis, something political economy-ish. I was going to talk to Professor Deese and Professor Erickson and just see if they had anything in mind. But yeah.
Good, yeah. Right, you can start with them, and we have also two economists on our faculty, Bob Murphy, Professor Bob Murphy, and Professor Daniel Lashkari. Although Professor Lashkari is going to be on leave in Stanford next year. So he won't be around. And political economy, though, why am I blanking on his name? Professor Nakazato can remind me. In political science.
Oh,
what's that?
Well, we have Professor Murphy as well. He's for the econ side.
No, our senior colleague. Sorry, I'm just totally blanking on his name.
Kirshner.
Kirshner, Jonathan Kirshner. Yeah, he's a very distinguished political economist as well. So he might be someone to see what he's writing and check in with as well. Okay, Grace Collins.
Hi, I'm Grace. My concentration is in cooperation and conflict. And I'm thinking of writing about truth commissions, maybe how to make them more effective in the long term and more bigger picture.
Terrific. Great, thanks. Owen.
Hi, I'm a cooperation conflict concentration, and I have no real idea for where I want to go with this.
Okay. Peter.
Hi, so I'm Peter. I'm a conflict and cooperation concentration as well. I also I know I want to write a thesis, but I don't really know where I want to go. Maybe something around the UN, but I'm very open to ideas. So
good, great. Ashton.
Hi, I'm Ashton. I'm also cooperation and conflict. I am uncertain about what topic I want to go with, but I am a journalism minor, so I'm kind of thinking of merging IS and journalism, but we'll see what happens.
Oh, that's a terrific combo. We can chat about that if you want a little bit later. I can't stay the whole time tonight, but there's a lot of interesting stuff on that front that I think you could do here at BC. Eric. And Eric with a K, I see.
Hi, I'm Eric. I'm political econ and development concentration. I'm thinking about international law, but I don't have a clear topic in mind. So.
Okay. Evan.
Hi, I'm a cooperation and conflict concentration, and I'm not 100% sure what I want to do for a topic yet, but I'm probably going to be studying abroad next fall in Egypt, so maybe something fairly relevant while I'm there.
Good. So you're taking senior fall instead of because you lost your opportunity this year, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. That's great. Lilai, how are you?
I'm good. Hi, I'm Lilai, global cultures concentration, and I'm also a communication major. So I don't know exactly what, but I'm looking to do something in like media studies or critical theory.
Mm-hmm. Terrific. Ray.
Hi, I'm also political economy and development studies, and I'm thinking doing something along the lines of renewable energy development with a comparative perspective, focusing on like China and the US and maybe the EU. I'm thinking probably working with Professor Dees, but also like just open to anything really.
Terrific. Thanks. And Ben.
Hey guys, I'm Ben. I'm concentrating in ethics and social justice. I'm interested in analyzing films and dramas through history and ethical perspectives. And I've already talking to Professor Wong about this.
Terrific. I think we have we'll have some other folks coming in. I'm sorry, I'm leaning over because my dog is giving me grief here. She wants some. But I think we'll have some other folks. Bianca, you're just coming on board. We were just finishing a round of introductions. If you're able, can you tell us your concentration and if you have any idea about your topic yet?
Hi, yeah, my concentration is conflict and cooperation, and in terms of topics, not very sure yet. I have a few ideas, but kind of all over the place right now.
Okay, no problem. Professor Nakazato, do you want me to start? Do you want to get rolling with some preliminaries?
Why don't you get started? Yeah, just explain to them what they're in for, but the positive sides of it. And then if this workshop is more or less a Q&A, but it's also just a quick overview what the process entails this semester as juniors. We're gonna have to talk to going abroad because that will cause issues because you'll have a full course load plus register for a thesis. But yeah, again, that's what this course is. And then just to discuss how to sort of refine your topics, make appointments with me to sort of work through your ideas. And so I thought, yes, let Professor Owens start, and then I'll take as long as however we go tonight.
Okay, thanks. So I'm Eric Owens. I'm the director of the IS program, and I teach classes on ethics. And so many of you will have me next year, probably half of you, maybe more, who knows, will have me in the ethics, religion, and international politics course that I teach. And this year I'm also teaching a senior seminar on global citizenship, deconstructing the idea and thinking about its component parts and whether it makes sense, et cetera. I'll be teaching that again next year as well, just for a little bit of background. And my academic, my department home is in theology as well. So as director of the program, I think one of the things I want to say to you guys is that the thesis is a great opportunity. It's an opportunity, first of all, to do what you want. We talk a lot about in our program how flexible it is. And one of the things that's flexible is the opportunity to do a year-long major research project as an independent study on a topic that you choose, of a scale that you choose, working with people that you choose. I mean, you can't get more flexible than that. And it's a real treat. And I shouldn't say you can do anything with anybody at any time, because of course, some faculty can only take on a certain number of theses to supervise, and some topics will ask you to scale down a bit to try to make them more manageable, and we'll ask you to combine them with things that you already have some thinking that you've been doing on these, or experience in your life, or whatever. But basically, it's a terrific opportunity to do something truly independent, that's truly your own. So A, it's a lot of autonomy and opportunity for choice. B, it's a great opportunity to work extremely closely with a faculty member. Our faculty are just terrific. We have such great faculty who contribute to our program, and you all know this. You've been through lots of classes now, and you've seen how committed the IS faculty are to students and to mentoring and teaching. And this is a really cool opportunity to work closer than you would work in any other way, unless you're doing sort of weekly meetings as a research assistant or something like that. But even then, you're driving the train rather than doing what they want. So you'd be picking a faculty member to work with And that's a really cool opportunity. It can pay all kinds of dividends in learning how to structure a major project, how to communicate professionally with other academics around the world, how to do field work, how to write clearly, how to do drafts, how to take constructive feedback, how to prepare for meetings, things like that. There's a lot of things you learn that aren't just the topic when you're writing a thesis. And I want to make sure that I highlight that as well, both the skill sets that you get and the opportunity for close relations with the faculty member. It's also an opportunity to learn something deeply, right? When we think about the topic, it's an opportunity for you to pick up a question that has made you mad, an issue that's made you angry, an issue that you find a deep injustice in, something you find beautiful, something you find compelling, something you find intriguing, and you want to know more about it. And occasionally there are classes that are being taught on the schedule that really cover that question. They do exactly what you want and you feel filled by it. But sometimes there are things that you want to pursue that come in the cracks between two classes, or they take something in a totally new direction, or they push it to a new level that undergraduate courses don't typically do. And you want to do more graduate level research and writing on a particular topic. And this allows you to do that. And that provides some important things as well. Just managing a large research project it takes a lot of focus and discipline, et cetera. But among the sort of outcomes that are positive that come of it, if you're thinking about graduate school, and especially in a field like international studies or a non-professional, a graduate degree that's not an MBA or a law degree, other graduate programs like to see evidence that you can do sustained work like this. It's not at all required to apply to graduate schools, but a place like an MPP in public policy, if you have written a thesis on the Middle East or something, it's a great sign that you can do graduate level work, and that can be helpful down the road. It can be helpful looking for a job. It's a competitive market out there for young college graduates, and having written a thesis on a particular topic that's related to a place you'd like to work, especially if it's international or using your language skills or thinking about international stuff, and you're applying for international organizations, that's important too. Professor Nakazato, you want to jump in?
Just actually to emphasize that not all of you may want to be pursuing an academic career, but the potential of writing a thesis for job purposes has some utility in that most students don't write theses, and that's true not just of BC but elsewhere too, and that makes you just stick out automatically, and that has been proven useful. A lot of students have sort of said postgraduate that or the advisor said, the interviewer said, "Oh, you've written a thesis, tell me about it." That's at least something to talk about. And so many of our alumni have attested to the value of the thesis for their careers, even if it's not related to their field. There is actually one student who, going to what Professor Owens said about his career, he wrote a thesis about salmon management treaties between the United States and Canada. It's a very dull, dry treaty, but he wanted to work for a conservation company, and he was talking to the interviewer, and the interviewer says, "Oh, that sounds interesting. I was actually one of the negotiating team members. Can you send me the thesis?" And so that was one of the few times it literally lined up. The man interviewing this student actually could sort of look over the student's work and say, "You got this right, you got that wrong," and it was rather remarkable. But that one case aside, a lot of the other students simply said, "No, it was something worth talking about. It was, I think, the edge for a job." So I just want to piggyback on Professor Owens. He's absolutely right. The purpose of the thesis is for its own sake, but it has ripple effects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think when you're doing interviews, it's something you can talk seriously about, something you can talk in depth about. I frequently talk in my classes that it's nice to, I try to make assignments that allow you to have a considered opinion about something, not simply an emotional response or an off-the-cuff opinion, but rather something that you've thought about and put some effort into. Writing a thesis gives you a lot of ability to have real opinions about things, and also to watch the world work in new ways. When you're doing deep research on a topic, I'm supervising a thesis now on the Myanmar government's use of state media in its 2017, sort of the beginnings of the genocide there. And as the coup unfolds now, she's having a totally different experience, paying attention to what's happening there as a result of being so deeply immersed in the literature as well. And So those are some of the upshots, I think, that come from writing a thesis and doing a year-long research project like this. Flexibility, working with faculty very closely, having deep understanding of a topic that's been vexing you, or that is something that you find compelling or beautiful that you'd like to write about as well. It doesn't all have to be the dark side of something or other, but rather it could be something that you find compelling, acts of forgiveness or reconciliation, or music and culture, or something like that. There's a whole range. You get to choose your topics. The other thing I'll say that's really totally a side issue, but also comes with the package. All of our thesis writers in the International Studies program receive departmental honors when you graduate. It's not the same as Morrissey College, summa cum laude or something like that. It's each academic program, a department or program, is able to offer honors to its graduates. And writing a thesis automatically awards you the proper completion of a thesis, means that you will graduate with honors from our program. That's kind of nice. Secondly, all thesis writers who submit their theses by April 15th are eligible to be considered for our annual Matteo Ricci Thesis Prize, which is the International Studies Prize for the best thesis each year. It comes with a stipend. I don't honestly remember. It's $500 maybe. What Professor Nakazato has a visual there for us. What's that? You're muted. You're muted still, Hiroshi. I can't.
Okay, yeah, my Zoom is causing problems. I'll just go back to my note. So this actually, Professor Owens might recognize, was the winner of last year. I have my copy here in my office still, my home office, but this is also a Scholar of the College project, I might add. It is over 180 pages long. And it was a massive project, and yeah, so she actually also, you know what, we still do not know who won last year's McCarthy Prize.
McCarthy Prize. Yeah. So you have an option to to write a thesis that counts for more than 6 credits. So is more than 2 classes worth, but in fact it's 3 or 4 classes worth. And those are called Scholar of the College theses. They're expected to be graduate level work. And it's quite an intensive process. So it's kind of a super thesis. As a result of writing one of these super theses called the Scholar of the College thesis, those are eligible for an additional award, a college-wide award called the McCarthy Prize, which is very prestigious. But that's a sort of extreme version of the thesis, and we have maybe 1 or 2 students a year who choose to do that. Sometimes none, sometimes a few more. I think Professor Nakazato will know more, but it's not something you're expected to do by any means. The length of your thesis, I'm sure Professor Nakazato will go over this, but just not to scare you by hearing 200 pages as a thesis length. They range quite widely depending on the discipline that if it's more economics based, these tend to be much shorter in the 30 to 50 page range. And if you're writing more social science or humanities based theses, they usually are in the 75, 80 to 150 page range, something like that. You'll find that the page numbers are less intimidating once you're in the middle of writing. That's really not something we're worried about. A page count is really not the primary issue. It's about whether you're substantially covering a topic appropriately. Last thing I'll just say is that as faculty, we love working with students on their theses. It's a joint project. It's something that we think is exciting when you want to do it, and when you are, working in areas of our scholarly expertise is something that obviously we love what we do as teachers and as academic mentors, and we love working with you. It's important for you to realize that it's a joint commitment, that faculty make a large commitment above and beyond what they normally teach in order to supervise theses. And so making the right connection with the faculty member is important. And then upholding your side of the bargain on it is important, so that your faculty member doesn't become someone who has to chase you down to have meetings or to turn theses in or something like that, but rather your partners throughout the year on this independent study. And that's the way it typically works. It works great. It's usually a great process. And I think that it can be a really terrific one. This is a great opportunity to ask big questions around the process of Professor Nakazato and talk to one another about it and start brainstorming. And over the next month or so, or whenever he decides, 2 months maybe, you start to refine your process of selecting, thinking about a research question, driving your big topical interest, and finding faculty who can work with you and things like that. It's okay to not be sure over the course of this time what you're looking for. There's a lot of questions to ask about it. Make sure that you're talking to friends about it. Our peer advisors, a number of our peer advisors are writing theses. So check on our website under advising about and see which one of those, or see which of our advisors are writing theses, and you can talk with them about the process. And of course, talk to Professor Nakazato. So I'm happy to answer any questions from my little brief intro there, but otherwise we'll open it for Professor Nakazato to take over. Professor Nakazato, as Associate Director of the program, is also our thesis program director. So he handles all the administrative work and around leading the process, and he convenes a seminar of thesis writers over the course of the year that meet on occasion to plan the logistics, but also to talk topics and things like that. So Professor Nakazato is your primary lead in the process. Any questions? It's a little hard for me to talk to a blank set of screens. So if you do have questions, please turn on your camera.
No, well.
Okay, all right, Professor Nakazato, thanks for letting me say hi, and good luck, everybody.
All right. Well, so today we're just going to go over some of the basics about the process. What we're worried about right now is getting you to come up with a topic and securing an advisor by the end of this semester. So first of all, I just want to mention there's no explicit guidelines on what constitutes an IS thesis in terms of topics. The expectation that it is international, broadly defined. Students who want to work on like US immigration policies, that's sort of the edge of it, because on some level it is international by virtue of non-Americans coming to the United States. So if you want to talk about US education policies, that's not going to work. You're in the wrong department. So we do have an expectation. It is international, broadly defined. And again, I don't want to be the gatekeeper. So as long as you pick topics that I can sort of say, yes, there's a non-US component, we're fine. That's the first thing I want to mention. Second, you do not have to work in your tracks. That was asked because it is interesting, but usually you would note that it's easier for some people to sort of cross over tracks. So if there's somebody in conflict and cooperation that want to write a more of a normative thesis, one that more about ethics, that's easily done. It's much more difficult for somebody in ethics and social justice or global cultural studies to do a econometric style statistical thesis, because unless you have the tools, so it's a little hard, but you can do topics that sort of stray out of your, strictly speaking, concentration. Having said that, your advisor will probably have some say over how to do your thesis topic. So for example, if you're a PED student, working with an economics professor may require you to do more econ style work than say working with somebody in sociology. Jennifer, what's her name? Professor Chuang, she does global inequalities, for example, and she would do it differently. So too, Professor Kirschner in the political science department might do a PEDS topic differently. So your advisor will sort of matter. If you work with a historian, they will want sort of some sort of historiography to some degree, and that's sort of expected, but not always guaranteed. So that's the first thing. We're not a department, okay? We're a program. We rely on other departments as well. Professor Owens did say that, professors do like advising theses, and that's true, but a lot of professors have students in their own majors to deal with as well. So my goal is to have you secure advisors fast, just so, professor might not say, I already have my 2 total, I can't take you, okay? Basically, the point of this is any faculty, full or part-time, may advise with other advisors subject to IS approval. We have had over the 15, 20 years, maybe 1 or 2 senior PhD students. That's not common, but sometimes that's happened, and that is acceptable. But generally, we want people who have PhDs or the highest degree possible. So if somebody who wants to do an art degree, as long as the person has a master's of fine art, that's fine, okay? While I mentioned you can work with full and part-time professors, it's probably better to work full-time. Anybody who's doing part-time is really doing a thesis out of love at that point. Be advised that different advisors do take their roles differently. Some are much more hands-on, others are much more removed. And depending on what you need, you have to sort of work out exactly what makes you comfortable working with somebody, okay? It is possible that it's not necessary to have a second reader. We do not have any process of you defending your thesis. You just have to write a thesis, have your advisor approve it, and that's all it takes, okay? Later on, over the summer and into the next semester, I will give you sort of a PDF that's sort of a thesis contract. You'll have to fill it out and send it back to me. And it basically sort of lets you write down to your advisor, here's the expectations I have of our relationship. Like, you know, I will give you 2 days to read the material, but I want you to have things to say about it during our meeting, for example. How often do we meet? You know, what kind of progress should I have during meetings? So you want to be able to have a contract, partly to make sure the professor knows that this is sort of a binding deal to some degree, and set expectations out, okay? So what happens basically is the advisor reads the thesis, contacts the ICE program, that's me, and then I issue the grade. I give the grade that the professor says. I don't question it, okay? You saw me sort of flashing a thesis in your face. At the end of the semester, and actually the website actually is more detailed, by a month from now, actually for the students right now, normally if you get your thesis done by April 15th, you are in the running for the IS prize for best thesis. You're also, if you are a scholar of the college, possibly in contention for the McCarthy Prize. That's the best theses of the college. But the point is, we do expect you to leave theses, a bound copy, in our library. You also usually give a copy to your advisor and what have you. We'll talk about that later. That's not really important. So what I want to talk about is just, again, some basic issues, but then sort of go into a little crash course on things you might not know, things you might know regarding how to do research. Okay, just, all right. As mentioned, there is no actual set length for theses. It takes what it takes to do. We've had PEDS theses that had a lot of number crunching, a lot of econometrics, a lot of stata. They've been short, generally speaking, 40 to 60 pages, 40 to 50 pages is quite long, okay? Everybody else, as he said, 70 to 100 is pretty common. And so what I want to talk about today really is sort of coming up with a topic, okay, and refining it and then sort of writing together a proposal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch from this to a, I'm just going to share my screen, because what I want to do is sort of show you certain things that some students may not know and some students probably will know. Okay. So with that in mind, this is our website. Do take a moment to sort of go through it again, you know, the overview, timeline, honors, thesis types, if you haven't already. What I want to do today is just mention a couple things. First, in order to do some work, what's useful is a tool called Zotero. Has anybody used this thing called Zotero before? It's zotero.org. Lala, I see your hand. I can't see anybody else. Who else? Sarafina, you know it as well. Anybody else hand up quickly? I can sort of see other people. Just a couple of you. Anybody else? Okay, Peter, you know it as well. Yeah, Maddie, you know it as well. Okay. Well, for those of you who have never heard of this, zotero.org. This is a bibliographic management tool. Okay, it is free, so the price is right. Basically, I'm on a Mac, obviously you can tell. You just download it, okay? And it'll be a PC if you're on a Windows or what have you. Then you download the connector you want. If you don't use, in my case, Firefox, just download the other connector, okay? This new version also basically then is attached to Google Docs and Office Word. So that's the first thing. Why would you want this? Well, just a quick little rundown of how it works. The original instructions used to say, this is like an iTunes interface, is what they used to say. I don't imagine any of you use iTunes or know what I'm talking about, or if you vaguely remember it. But here it is. This is Zotero, okay? Word must be restarted. That's fine. I'll restart Word. Okay. So what happens is once you have Zotero added, it becomes a little tab here. Okay. But what Zotero really does is once you find readings, it sort of connects And so let me just show you the word side of it. So if I type something and then say, I want to insert a citation, I want Chicago Manual of Style. I want to use, say that, page 345. It automatically shows up down there, ready to go, okay? And that's sort of the whole point of it. So when you're actually writing a thesis, it's just much easier to use this program called Zotero. What happens if I use the same, well, the same source, this time 356? It will know to do the short version, which is just the name. Okay, but what happens then if you end up adding something else in the middle? Asylum, why not? It will go back to the proper sort of longer version, okay? Not the full version, but the long version. This is actual Chicago Manual Style 17. So one more just to illustrate this. This is my third different reading. And you can sort of see it all there. And when you're writing a paper for a normal course, you can also then say at the end of your paper, well, here's my bibliography. Okay, so it's a very useful tool. It's free. And the utility comes down to keeping track of your sources in a neat and tidy fashion, ready to be used. So Zotero is the first thing I just want to show to everybody. Okay, that's the first thing. There are some hands up. If you saw who I called out, if you have troubles with it, just contact like Lili or Maddie and just sort of, I'm having some trouble. How do I get this thing to work? They can possibly walk you through. It's fairly intuitive, but there are some other issues with it. So that's the first thing, zotero.org. It's something worth looking at. Second, I'm assuming most of you have used search engines that are scholastic, that you've used scholargoogle.com, okay, or you've used JSTOR, okay? And they're both fine engines. I just want to talk to you about my favorite one, okay? And it's the one that, when I was your age, was called the Social Sciences Citation Index. If you go to library.bc.edu and ask for what we call these days the Web of Science, this is my preferred one. I'll sort of show you why I like this. I actually have a bookmark, but I just want to show you how to find it, okay? Come on, there we go. So this basically works like JSTOR and Google Scholar combined. You can barely see here, but it says example oil spill star Mediterranean. So this search engine also has wildcards, so that oil spill star, so spill star could cover spillage, spilling, spilt, well, not spilt, but spilled. Okay, so if you want to write certain things, you can sort of use that. I was looking at what some students sort of said. Let's sort of go to Jake. You're sort of saying you're talking about the rise or fall of American influence in the international realm, I think you said. Is that something like that? So you can go America, that will cover American influence, global, for example. Whatever, just do a search engine, okay, like that. What's useful here is you can do this with other ones. You can choose categories, okay? I'm clearly picking wrong terms because the first things are all sort of environmental. I was looking for more international relations, political science, economics, history. You can sort of, this is just numbered according to how many papers are written, all the way down to 21 on insects. That's interesting. Let's ignore those. And you can sort this by relevance. You can sort this by, I'm just going to go down to by 50. Okay, and you can sort of see this, and you can say, oh, that looks useful. That came out in 2008. Okay, no one else has cited it, or but that might be useful. And you can sort of say, do we have it? Find it at BC. Here's something else that might be useful. And you can sort of see somebody else has used it. So this mimics what Google Scholar does. It'll tell you who else has used it. Okay, so this scholar has used that other article I pointed to. But you can also see, well, what readings did this have? This is what other ones don't. So this one will actually mention, here's all the footnotes. And so they're all down here. So the Web of Science is useful because it lets you figure out who's used this article going forwards. But you can look at what articles was used going backwards. So this was a fairly big one. 250 people cited it. Gilpin, which makes this is Robert Gilpin's book, War and Change in World Politics. That number seems low to me, actually. But this is useful. So you really want to quickly find out what are the articles I need, what kind of books do I want. This lets you go backwards and forwards very quickly, okay? And again, you can go back and say, New media use and Americans' perception of global threat. That might go useful to comp people. 12 people have already used it. It's from 2008. And now I hadn't mentioned this, but there you go here. If you ever see this, it means you can add this, the readings you want, to Zotero just by doing that. You can select all and whatever, and those get now added. So my little Zotero pile just got bigger. So all of those got added to here right now, okay? And that's true here. So if you were here and just sort of taking line global politics, it'll say, how about these as hits? And there's a ton of them. You can also then, of course, get narrower, okay? You can also choose the subjects you want. So it's very similar. But it doesn't cite who's used it. It just simply says, here's the readings you can have. So yeah, this might be interesting. Download it. You can also then click on it. I don't think Zotero works at this up level, but it definitely works at this level where you can say, I want this article, okay? I don't think it works at this top. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't work here. Yeah, just if you look at it, it just grabs the web page. It's not as useful. So Google Scholar, much the same thing. So this one does the citation thing. Here's all the people have used this article. That's decline of mollusks. This one's not as useful because it can't really let you cut down to the way I showed you to international relations. I'm stuck with anything like mollusks or mammals, atmospheric mercury. So this is not my favorite. It does this sort of trick of letting you know who's used the article, but I'd rather filter by what I want and then figure out who's used it, okay? This one, again, doesn't do that. It just says you can filter by subject area. I don't need to do folklore or food studies, but you can't then say, what are these articles sources or who's used this article? So basically, these two both do useful things. This does everything. That's why I choose this as my favorite search engine. So I just want to mention this, okay? Like, you know, you might come across interesting articles. Does anybody have a topic that, well, some of you did say well, most of you said, I have no idea is what you told me. Grace, you mentioned truth commissions. Did you have something in mind particularly that came to you?
I'm specifically interested in like South Africa and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and how it could have been expanded on.
Right.
I don't know.
Let's start with that. Okay. Truth Commission. So I've just started a new fresh one. You'll see there's only 428 hits, but you can, again, it's still worth then figuring out, well, political science, law, area studies, international relations, social issues, history, interdisciplinary sociology. I mean, in theory, you can just stay with it, but you might think, I really don't need public admin. I don't need families. This is why I make a point of this. You might want ethics. There's only 5 that are ethics. What the heck? Ethnic philosophy, anthropology, good enough. You can also shorten it down. You don't need book reviews, you might think. You might want chapters and articles only. And so you can keep refining, okay? Those are about the only ones you'd actually ever use. But having done that, it's by relevance. This is useful. 10 other scholars use it. You can say, okay, I want this. You can. This also does that trick. You can actually look at the abstract. This is why the Social Sciences Citation Index, that's this, the Web of Science, is, I think, the best search engine for scholars. It's designed for scholarship in a way that other ones aren't. You can look at other 10 articles. You can look at its article, okay? So this is the 45 that this used. You can all chase these down and see, were there anything useful? And you can also look at, well, here's the 10 that found it useful. People's Trilateral Truth Commissions, that makes sense. Why do states adopt it? So this is why this search engine, I think, really works. It's called the Web of Science because it sort of goes backwards and forwards, just creates a huge network, okay? And that makes it a really powerful search engine. And again, it also plays with Zotero in a much nicer way, as far as I'm concerned, okay? Zotero works with anything. If you're on, say, New York Times, and you come across an article, you say, oh, I want that. I was just talking about this in class, actually. You can actually, yeah, can I add that to Zotero? And it's right there, save to Zotero. Okay, so Zotero works wherever it can grab details. And what happens if you do something like an interview? Well, just go to Zotero and say, I'm doing an interview. And then you have to fill it out all on the side over here. But so it can do anything that might be unusual. You know, you found a podcast. Well, there it is, radio broadcast, a thesis. They're all here. These are the more usual ones, as you'd expect, but it's all there. Let me just delete that. Okay, so basically you've heard me hyping up Web of Science. This is what I want you to, you don't have to, you can use whatever you like. This is just so powerful, I find, in terms of chasing down, Grace, you can probably just start with this. Like it literally has, not that, you can play with 183 hits that I chose and just figure out which ones you want and then go backwards and forwards very quickly. And, like what articles did this use? What did it have? You can sort by date if you want, I'm going by relevance. Date would make it, the most recent one was just literally September 2020. And there you have it. All right, so that's the first thing I just want to mention that is useful. That is along with Zotero, the two are used to quickly build up a library of things you might want to read. Second, and there might be a little bit of a mad rush, I'm going to encourage you to read a couple books or a couple chapters from two books. The first is called The Craft of Research, just autofilling because it knows what I want. This is available at the library, but it's also available online. However, one person at a time, so please don't be doing this while I'm searching for this, okay? Once I quit, you can go on. Well, actually, there's several online. I'm looking for, yeah, this will do. This is the 3rd edition. You can look at okay. What I want you to do between now and sometime when you want to talk to me about your topic is read what we're going to call second section, okay? Section 2, this part here. This is useful. The whole of it's useful. You can sort of read this, thinking in print, reconnecting the reader, but simply, some of you don't have topics at all, but let's sort of move from topics to questions, and then from questions to a problem, and then we can then start thinking problems to sources. So this section 2, it's 74 pages, not a lot. And in fact, what I want is 16 pages, 17 pages, 16 pages. That's, again, not a lot, okay? That's the sort of zone that might help you think about what am I trying to come up with as a topic, okay? So it actually does ask, well, if you have a topic, so what, okay? Let's turn it into a question. And then what's the problem in that question in there, okay? So that's the first reading I'm going to assign to everybody. So if you can, hit download section 2, okay? And you can get the rest of it slowly over a few days. You can only grab 104 pages at a time, but that's the first reading I would like you to download, okay? So Craft of Research, 3rd or 2nd edition, this part here, okay? Topics to questions, questions to problem, problems to sources. It'll help you refine your thinking, I think, okay? The second reading I would like you to get is pretty easy. How to write a BA thesis. It too is free at BC. It is online, only one person at a time. So once I've done this, if you can't get it, just wait till your colleagues finish it. Same idea. What I want you to read here is also section 2, okay? And it's here, refining your topic, writing a proposal, beginning your research. This is what I want you to read once you've gotten a topic, once you've talked it with me, we've got potential faculty in mind that we can then start to say, okay, let's put together a proposal, okay? The other part I do want, so chapter 4 and then chapter 7, every thesis should have a thesis. This you don't really have to have in mind immediately, but obviously you have a point you're trying to make or you've got a question you're trying to uncover. So from this book, I encourage you to read chapter 4 first, but have chapter 7. It's only 11 pages. It's not much. This is also 21 pages. So it's not a lot of reading, but it's sort of things you might want to consider, okay? So the first one's more practical. How do I come up with a topic and then what do I do with it? Once you've got it, let's turn into a proposal. So that's sort of homework when you have a moment to do that, okay? What else is there? Okay, so those are the readings that we have. What I want to show you then is what we can do and just sort of illustrate how other students have sort of done this. Okay, what does the proposal look like? It literally is, the first cut almost always is pretty, I don't want to say crappy, that's a bad way to phrase it. It's a little rough, and that's standard. Okay, let me just see if I can't. Let me just sort of find one randomly. I have no idea who I just picked on. Oh, the gap between theory and practice of R2P. And so this student basically put together what she knew. Sort of, yeah, here's some background research on R2P. There's some cases she had in mind. She wanted to put the pillars of responsibility. And so that was her first cut. And then what I did was we talked it out. So she just wrote all these ideas down. And if I'm not mistaken, I said, well, here's how maybe we should break it out. So let's sort of have an introduction. Let's have a background, let's talk about just war theory, because that's where R2P comes from. Let's talk about the legal framework. She is working with me. I do know who this is. And then here's what R2P really is. Okay, and then we started talking about what she wanted to talk about, the problem of implementation, the logistical problem of it, and so forth. And so basically, this is how it starts. You just put some ideas down, okay? They can be pretty rough, and we just talk it out. It's all it takes, okay? So I just want to encourage you to do that. Let me see if I can't find somebody else here. You can sort of see, okay, that's not it. I have no idea what this looks like. Literally, yeah, safe through country agreement. This is it, and we just talked, and then we started talking. We put this is how small this proposal was. It's quite limited, and again, you can sort of see they get more complicated sometimes. I can't remember. Okay, but that's all. And so this one's actually fairly filled out. She's been writing a bit. There's a bit. It's what, 10 pages it said there. So, but you can sort of see at one point she put together, here's what I think I'm going to try to do. And here's my working bibliography. It's not long. So, it's just simply a few pages. So that's what I'm hoping you can put together. Okay. You want to put together something you can sell to an advisor. Let me see if I can't find, it's fine. Same idea, governance for sustainable fashion. Okay. And it's just, a few pages in, put together a possible thesis outline and put together a working bibliography. And that's what you were trying to get to. So that's sort of what we've got here. Okay. So that's good enough for that part. What else do I have to mention here? So I realize you're all busy right now taking classes. It's midterm season. Nonetheless, between now and the next couple of weeks, I will put on here onto the, you can make an appointment with me, and there's the link. And you can just, let me just drop it into the chat location. And if you want to, you can basically log on to this and basically find a time that you can, here's when I'm free. It's going to list it all here. You can say, okay, next week, Thursday, these are the times I'm free. Just sort of say, I'll lock this up and then we can talk. It actually is quite useful to lock up an hour, okay, because we actually usually go a little long, I find. But I'm going to encourage you to, and again, there's more time, and I will add more times later on. So I do encourage you to just use my Calendly link, make an appointment, and we can talk about your topics. But I do want you to have some ideas, okay? Not just, here I am, no idea what I want to do. At least move from no ideas to at least I've written some ideas down. And then again, a part of that is read the 2 books I've suggested you read, okay? With that in mind, that sort of is the talk about what the thesis entails, what we're trying to do for the end of this semester. Basically, it's have a proposal, okay? Let's secure an advisor. Let's fill out a thesis contract. Zotero is a useful tool you may find quite handy. I actually don't use it, funny enough. I use a different program. Also, I think the search engine of choice is the Web of Science, hands down. But I really don't care if you use Scholar, Google, or JSTOR. It really doesn't matter, honestly. But this one is powerful in a way that does things far better than the other 2, I think. With that in mind, that's pretty much my talk about what we're in for. Does anybody have any questions that I can answer? Anybody have any concerns or comments? Just curious. Don't have any hands up. Well, not sure what else to add to this. I booked an hour and a half just in case it went long, in case students had questions, in case you asked Professor Owens questions. What I just wanted to do today was sort of get you thinking about a thesis, okay? You're not committed to writing one. All of you just joined just because you're thinking of it. There's also about another 20 of you who said, I'm thinking about it. Hopefully they'll have a chance to watch this video. What we're basically looking for is for you to find a topic that really fascinates you, okay, that actually has something substantive. I don't mean something like brand spanking new or breaking new ground. It's just simply, it's something that will result in a decent thesis, okay? if you just want to read a bunch of books because you have a couple questions you want to get answered, that's kind of a book report you'd end up writing. So what we're looking for is some extra little edge that says, okay, I don't know anything about this topic. Now I do, and that's just basically reading books. But then here's what I want to do with that knowledge I've found. And that's really the next step that I'm encouraging all of you to try to capture. Okay. Let me just stop the share. You don't need to see that anymore. So that's really what we're basically getting to. Can you come up with topics that will grip you, that will make you want to work, okay? Not only in the fall, possibly over the summer, but into the fall and then into the spring. Was it Evan or who was it? Who was going abroad? Was it Evan or Owen? I don't remember.
It was me. Yeah.
It was you, Evan.
Yep.
This is something that is an issue because you'll be doing a full course load there. You're also abroad having, fun, delimited. Where are you going, Evan? I'm just curious.
Hopefully Cairo.
Okay. Well, you can't drink there, unfortunately, but okay.
Yeah.
So you're in Cairo, you're having fun, you're seeing the sights, riding camels and what have you. You might not have as much time devoted to thesis writing. So a part of this will be this summer, apart from saving up money for your semester abroad, but also do some research. So the work you do while you're there, it might be minimal, but it's not going to put you behind the 8 ball by the time you come back. That's all I can say for you. We were discussing whether or not, students who go abroad, should they write theses, because you have to do the full course load there. And then on top of that, you're registered. You're probably not registered for the thesis. You're just going to have to work on it. So that's all I can say about that for you. And we'll talk later, Evan. We've got time. But anybody else have any questions or concerns about what you're getting yourselves into? It is fun. It is worth doing. Faculty, we're all faculty because we like staying perpetual students in a sense. We all like learning. And so hopefully you'll get a taste of that. This is what research is. It's chasing down something you like. Okay, love would be maybe wonderful. I don't expect that necessarily because there's a certain point where you're going to hate it. Having said that, I can tell you of the students who have written theses, you will find a point like somewhere in March or April, you're thinking, ugh, I'm almost done. And I realize if I'd known what I'm doing, I would have changed it and read it this way. That's too late. Just finish what you've got, okay? And then you now know how to do research the next time you go into like graduate studies. You will actually have better sense of here's how to do research. It is one of those infuriating, but also fun things to do. The students who have written it at the end in May have said it's one of the most satisfying things they've done, okay? Because it's something you can sort of look and say, this is what I did. And it is amazing. And you can't really see it under the background there. So it's something I do want to encourage you to do. Having said that, there's no shame if you decide you don't want to, okay? Just that's fine. Do the senior seminar. It's no big deal. But Professor Owens did want to talk up the good things about it, and they are true things. You just have to decide if it's for you, okay? And then you and I, let's talk about topics. Let's talk about how to tackle it, okay? Like what's your particular take on this thesis that makes it yours? And then let's try to figure out, suitable advisors. And that's sort of where we're going to go forward with this, okay? So with that in mind, if there's no questions, you've all logged on for an hour, and this is basically what it's turned out to be, an hour long. Any questions? Anything to add? No, you're all pretty quiet, or you have your cameras off. Well, thank you for logging on. I'm going to hit stop on the record in a moment, and then Professor Owens will add this to YouTube. I will then send a link. It's going to be a private YouTube link, so no one else can find you on that, okay? Like you are hidden. With that in mind, what else is there to add? Yeah, so I've just given you the Calendly link. Hopefully you've managed to copy that to yourself, and I encourage you to make an appointment with me. We can talk about your topics from now right into the summer. And let's try to find something that you want to do. Let's try to find a way to do it. Let's start working out readings that you need to start reading, taking notes. Later on, once I know you're doing a thesis, we'll have other workshops on, note taking, or how to use Word, or how to save drafts. And there's all these sort of little fiddly bits about the thesis writing that really matters, how you do it properly, okay? If any of you are doing things that involve like human research, like doing interviews, you have to get extra training, okay? The IRB, the Institutional Review Board, has rules about these things. Again, that's once we're going for it and we know what you want to do. And then we can talk about the in the weeds sort of part about what research entails. It's still big picture, okay? So I don't see any hands up. So again, thanks for logging on. I'm gonna first of all hit end. Where the heck are my controls? Okay. You think oh, there it is.